Tonight, a special edition of MiWeek from the CEO Summit. And Detroit's bankruptcy plan has been approved, but what are the next steps for the city? MiWeek starts right now.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta.
Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Christy McDonald. Tonight, MiWeek is coming to you from the Weston Book Cadillac in Detroit, the site of the Business Leaders for Michigan CEO Summit. We will sit down with some of the CEOs participating and talk a little bit about Michigan's future in a global marketplace, plus a decision in Detroit's bankruptcy. But when will the plan take effect? And that is where we're going to start tonight. Judge Rhodes approved the city's plan of adjustment and said what happened in Detroit must never happen again. And while the plan has been approved, the date it will take effect remains unclear. There will be another court hearing on November 24th. So what happens next? Here to weigh in on that, Nolan Finley, the editorial page editor of the Detroit News, and Nancy Kaffer joins us today from the Detroit Free Press, sitting in for Stephen Henderson. Nolan, Nancy, it's good to see you. So this is our first show since the decision, the plan of adjustment that was made last week. It feels that this should be the time that we sit and take a sigh of relief, but knowing that there is tremendous work ahead.
Well, and I guess that's the theme. Everybody was really excited that this bankruptcy was able to end so quickly, so cleanly, no appeals. No further litigation, we hope. But now the challenge is making it work. The ground is there for it. So the foundation is there. There's a lot of extra money freed up by this bankruptcy to improve city services and to improve quality of life. But the basic challenges remain. How do you hang on to your residents? How do you increase your revenue stream? And how do you operate in an efficient, transparent manner at City Hall?
You know, Nancy, I mean, before we tackle a lot of those questions about what Detroit has to do now and where we're going to go next, I think it's important to kind of take a step back and say, do you think that we'll ever see a municipal bankruptcy like what happened in Detroit again around the country?
Lord, I hope not. I think it's a measure of how municipal bankruptcy can go that we look at this and say this was a clean, fast process, because it was. It was, compared to other municipal bankruptcies, it was incredibly fast. We were at one time very worried pensioners who took some real substantive painful cuts were going to be significantly more harmed than they were in this bankruptcy. They came out much better than I think that we thought that they would. But yeah, this is a really painful process, and yeah, I really hope that it doesn't happen again.
It's interesting. I think you have to balance tone of reaction almost to this decision. It's not jubilation or really celebration, but it's more like, okay, we've gotten through this process now, and now the hard work begins. Nolan, what would you say are the top 3 things that Detroit now and the leadership now has to do?
Has to become a livable city. You can't lose any more residents. We have to be at the bottom of that population decline that began 50, 60 years ago. We now have to start growing population again. You have to start growing your business base again. You've got to get revenue coming into this city, tax revenue. Otherwise, 10 years from now, that the money that's been freed up by this bankruptcy, by erasing the debt, that's going to be gone, and Detroit's going to have similar challenges paying its bills.
It's easier said than done, Nancy, when you talk about growing a population and then growing a tax base. Can Detroit settle for holding right now in population?
We're going to keep losing population for a while. We're currently losing about 600 residents a month, and no one really expects that to stop for the next, I don't know exactly how long, several years. Like, we're going to eventually predict it to level out around, I think the last SIMCOG report was that we're about 680,000 residents. I think we're expected to level off around 550, somewhere in the 500,000s. But I mean, Nolan's right, we can't afford to lose more residents, but we're going to. couple of things that have to change. DPS has to get fixed. Detroit Public Schools are in a terrible state. The State Education Achievement Authority, the statewide reform district, hasn't really had the results that folks hoped it would have yet. It's still kind of early for them. There's still the possibility that they could do some better results for the lowest performing academic schools that they're now running. We've got charters, which have once again not really had the academic achievement in the city that we hope that they would across the board. Though some schools are very good and doing great work. All this has to get fixed, or else the new residents that we're seeing coming to Midtown and downtown are going to leave. Anyone who can't afford to send their kid to a private school, and private school space is not plentiful in the city. There's some really good options. There's not tons of great options though. Or get a seat in a high performing charter. Folks are going to leave once they get to the age of having kids. That has to get fixed. And I don't think anybody really has a fully developed plan for how to make that happen.
You know, Nolan, I think schools are definitely on the list, but it feels like they're far down the list in terms of, well, we've got to make sure that we got our IT system in place so we can collect the taxes that we have.
And they have been, and they weren't part of this bankruptcy at all, weren't part of the discussion at all. But they remain
Was that wrong? Do you think that it should have been a bigger part of the discussion?
I mean, they weren't germane to the bankruptcy in terms of the financial demands, but they certainly are in terms of rebuilding a city, and nobody seems to have the answer, so nobody wants to touch it. It's a tar baby nobody wants to pick up because nobody has an answer here. And you know, there's been pressure or been some suggestion that, okay, we turn it over to Mayor Duggan and let him do it. Well, I remember when there was pressure to turn it over to Kwame Kilpatrick and let him do it. And you wonder how that would have worked out.
So there's been a plan that's been floated that would centralize all the schools, enrollment and accountability for all the Detroit schools, public schools, traditional public schools, charters, and the EAA under a central authority. One of the theories out there is that Duggan would run that, would have oversight over that authority. That's an interesting idea, and it gets us part of where we need to go in terms of coordinating transportation, enrollment, and accountability, but it does nothing to affect the budget problem in DPS. They're supposed to have there's $127 million shortfall or deficit in the last year. They've got operating budget shortfall. They've got serious financial problems. They've got a ton of debt, and absent some big influx of cash, like great, more accountability, awesome. But how do you deal with a serious budget that prevents you from providing the kind of services that you need to kids? There's some ideas going on here. The emergency manager in charge of DPS right now, Jack Martin, his contract is set to expire in January, and we're going to see some kind of legislative move. Probably not any big thing in lame duck, but sometime in the spring, or I'm sorry, in January, we're going to have to see something, whether it's the appointment of another EM. I don't get the sense that anyone's really eager to appoint another EM, or the creation of some kind of new mechanism to oversee DPS, because I don't think anyone thinks they're done with their financial emergency.
The oversight has to be removed from the Detroit political process, or you're never going to improve the Detroit schools. I mean, you can say, well, Duggan would be a good guy to do it. Well, maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't, but he's not going to be mayor forever. And this fix, whatever fix you put in place, has to last. These schools have changed governance and models half a dozen times in the last 20 years. They've been in and out of state control and what have you. But you can't mire it in the Detroit political process, or you're going to have the equivalent of the old school board, and meaningful educational reform will just stall.
All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. Nancy Kaffer from the Detroit Free Press, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And now to our other top story. The CEO Summit is a gathering not only of Michigan's executive leaders, but those who spend their time immersed in the global marketplace. It's an opportunity for all to share ideas to reach a common goal. In its third year, Business Leaders for Michigan CEO Summit is once again bringing together business, community, and civic leaders to talk about moving Michigan forward. This year's theme, Charting the Course for Michigan's Future. Dozens of CEOs, entrepreneurs, and other decision makers will participate in this one-day event to exchange ideas, network, and develop a plan to make Michigan competitive. Business Leaders for Michigan is a private, nonprofit organization started back in 2009. Their goal, make Michigan a top 10 state for job, economic, and personal income growth. The group is made up of CEOs, chairpersons, or other senior executives from Michigan's largest companies and universities, all sharing the common goal, moving our state forward. And joining us now to get a sense of how competitive the state really is President and CEO of Business Leaders for Michigan, Doug Rothwell. Doug, it's always good to see you.
It's great to see you guys too.
All right, so the goal is to make Michigan in the top 10 in terms of jobs and economy. Where are we in that goal?
Well, we made a lot of progress the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, we were dead last on a lot of metrics back in the late 2000s. Now we're kind of approaching middle of the pack of the 50 states, but you know, the message we keep trying to say is that that's okay, but it's really not good enough if you want to create more good jobs.
Doug, your organization, helped shape the policy agenda in Governor Snyder's first term when it comes to fixing the business climate. What's left to be done in this next term? What's on the top of your priority list?
Well, you probably give us more credit than we deserve, Nolan. I mean, we were certainly, you know, hopefully helpful, but I think that what we see is we've made so much progress in kind of fixing the balance sheet of the state, tax reform, fiscal reform, that, yeah, there's always more work to be done there, but the big things really are now infrastructure and people. Fix the roads, but let's do it right. Let's not do kind of a half a loaf, and let's make sure we have both an educated and skilled workforce to fill the jobs that we're actually trying to create.
Doug, what are business leaders telling you about how well they're able to succeed in business right now with the state of where Michigan is right now? What are the kind of concerns that they have for you, and what are some of the successes that they're seeing? We're finally seeing this change.
Well, I think the biggest thing is they feel like there's consistency again, there's certainty again in terms of how the state's being run. I mean, remember, you go back in the 2000s, we had 2 government shutdowns, budgets couldn't be passed, taxes were being changed, we had like 3 different changes to the corporate tax structure in a few years. That just gets business really worked up because they don't know how to plan for their future. Now, they feel like this is a solid place to do business. But as I said before, they can't get their products and people to market if the roads are like they are, and they can't get the jobs filled if they don't have more talent to fill those jobs. So that's why we got to keep working.
And those were the 2 priorities the governor mentioned after his re-election. Getting transportation built through the lame duck. I don't know if you feel that's a possibility or not, but also closing this skills gap. And that seems to be something the business community has a huge stake in, and also an opportunity to help with. What role will the business community play in training Michigan workers for the jobs that we hope to draw to Michigan?
Yeah, I think they're absolutely doing it, and will do more. I mean, for example, I think for, you know, getting more of an emphasis on vocational education in the K-12 system, I think business wants to provide co-ops and things like that if the school system will make that more of an emphasis in their educational curricula. I think that, you know, you look at workers that are already in the workplace. I mean, business is going to fund the bulk of the training that needs to be done, but in some cases you do need a little state assistance to jumpstart those efforts, and Michigan has really cut back on those over the last decade with all the budget problems we had. The next one, though, is you got to make college more affordable. I mean, we keep saying, look, we need more educated and skilled workers. It's not an either or. You need both. And that means you got to do what we did last year, which is for the first time keep the cost of college below the rate of inflation. You do that for a period of years, you're going to get more people going to college and more people graduating from college, which is so important.
I want to talk a little bit about Detroit and the fact that it is now emerging from bankruptcy. How does Detroit's continually evolving story affect business around the rest of the state?
It's huge, and I think it's a reason why you saw business leaders from throughout the state. In many respects, West Michigan was as supportive or more of Detroit getting out of bankruptcy, and I think it's because it does affect the image of Michigan. I mean, you guys travel all the time. You go outside the state, it's Detroit that's our brand, more than the Michigan name is our brand. And I think business gets that, and that's why everybody's rooting for the city. We just had our board meeting down here a couple months ago. Took them all, Midtown, downtown, Riverfront. I mean, I never saw a group of business leaders more charged up in my life. And these are folks from throughout the state. So it is great to see that we've come together and embraced the city.
How confident are you that the city can capitalize on this and do what it needs to do?
Well, short term, pretty optimistic, because there's such a consensus among business and foundation leaders to make it happen. So I feel pretty good about Midtown, downtown. You know, the neighborhoods are really what I worry about more long term, and I think it's right that the mayor is spending most of his time focused there. I think the business and foundation community will take care of the downtown. It's the neighborhoods we need to focus on.
All right, Doug Rothwell, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We hear a lot these days about being competitive in a global marketplace, and one man with his hand on the pulse of what's happening globally is Jonathan Wetzel. He's the director of the McKinsey Global Institute. Jonathan, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Christy. Pleasure.
Why don't you go ahead and start off by giving us some ideas of what are some of the biggest ways that business in China has impacted business here in Michigan?
Well, there are a couple of things that are really important. Obviously, it's a market. So China today is perhaps the largest automotive market, and that has, I think, created a big pull for Michigan products and services to come to China and meet the needs of the Chinese consumer. At the same time, it's a big market. It's starting to become a competitor. Whether we're looking at components or finished goods from China, it's starting to appear in our products in our supermarkets and our grocery stores everywhere. And it's hard to buy Christmas tree lights if they don't come from China. So it's both a market and a competitive challenge.
But we haven't yet seen the real big ticket items from China on in our marketplace. When would you expect to see Chinese vehicles, for example, on our streets?
Well, I think there's still quite a ways to go. China is becoming more of a higher technology country, and so it really doesn't export textiles and toys as much as it is more about machinery and electronic goods, but still some way to go before they really master things like integrating systems, and that capacity to build a whole ecosystem, that's still one way off. Well, in reality, a lot of what you do see, even in finished goods today, some exports are coming from China, and there are some cars already out there.
So talk to us a little bit about a competitive global marketplace. We're always talking about how can we get ahead, how can Michigan get ahead, and what are some of the ways that you think Michigan can compete with Asian countries?
Well, the first and most important thing is about knowledge-intensive trade. Actually, if you look at the United States, it's one of the only countries, advanced countries in the world that runs a deficit on knowledge-intensive trade. And so this is an amazing thing. We should really figure out how to take advantage of what we've got, which is the knowledge of our people. And that's largely comes down to small and medium-sized enterprises, local companies, and helping them figure out how to export, how to enter new markets. That's one thing that Michigan could do right now. A better job of is thinking through where and how to do that, how to help the small guy.
What about education? I'm sorry, Nolan. What about education, though?
Well, education is the bedrock. I mean, without that, we can't be successful, and that's historically been one of the strengths. But if we look more recently in the last couple of decades, in the United States, the scores, particularly in K through 12 and STEM, has been falling. We're like number 30 or something like that in these rankings of mathematics. So, reinvesting there. I think there's still the higher education, the colleges and universities. That's the star of the system. But shoring it up at the foundation, that's got to be a critical agenda item.
But you talk about exporting knowledge, and there is a concern of how well China can be trusted in terms of intellectual property theft and other concerns. Are we making any progress towards building a greater degree of trust with China when it comes to trade?
I think there is progress being made, but let's be clear, the relationship of the United States and China is a trade-based relationship. There's very little of a common foundation when it comes to issues of law or culture or community relationships. So this is going to be one step at a time. In that context, a company needs to look out for itself. It really does need to have a strategy to protect its core intellectual property, what's going to go in, what's going to stay out, and how to manage that.
Is that possible? I mean, are there steps companies can take?
Well, we have seen a lot of successful examples, whether we're talking about tires or glass or automotive components, thinking through who is going to be your key person in that country and what their relationships are and how do you manage your employees. And Chinese companies are doing the same. They're the ones who are actually on the front foot about protecting intellectual property right now because they want to defend their own property as well.
Jonathan, what about making Michigan an attractive place for companies internationally to want to come and do business? How important is it to have strong city centers, strong urban areas?
Well, it's critical because people ultimately stick because of their families. And sort of creating a welcoming community environment that includes thinking about education for the kids and family centers for the whole extended community, that creates the stickiness. Otherwise, we get people who are essentially coming through for maybe a couple of years, they do their time in a company or they go to university and then they leave. And that's a bad thing for Michigan. So Michigan should try to get those people to stay because they create new jobs. Every one core value job that one attracts here creates 5 other related jobs for services and their families and so forth. So getting those people who've come here for a purpose to stay, that's one of the easiest and most important opportunities, which is all about the community. It's all about the urban development.
Now you see a lot of Chinese dollars coming into this country to be invested in real estate and other ventures. What are the opportunities in Detroit and Michigan for attracting those Chinese dollars.
Well, that's a really good point. Because I think last year was about $235 billion worth of foreign direct investment in the United States. That's about 60% of Michigan's GDP. That's a big number. I don't think that's only going to get bigger, and a lot of that's coming from China. There's this wall of money coming, and so how to use that? Does it mean, is it all going to go into strip malls somewhere in commercial real estate, or can it be channeled into economic development, into good manufacturing jobs, and into creating viable city centers? I think that's a lot down to the state and local and the business community to say, what are our priorities? We got to set things. If we don't say what we want, any direction is fine.
Right.
All right. Well, thanks for your insight. We appreciate it. Jonathan Wetzel for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you
Thanks
very
for
much.
being
Okay.
Innovation and collaboration can often be seen as business buzzwords, but creating new products does happen faster in environments that encourage creative thinkers to work together. Joining us now is Blake Krieger. He is the Chairman, President, and CEO of Wolverine Worldwide. Blake, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
It's great to be here.
First off, give me a sense of how you perceive the business climate here in Michigan, how it's changed, and how we stack up around the rest of the country.
Listen, I think the business climate here is good, it's solid, pretty much like the rest of the country. We've seen the last 4 years, frankly, Michigan rise from probably being 49th or 50th on virtually every list to creeping up towards average now. So we've had a population is growing again in Michigan. There's lots of happening in the Detroit urban center. There's lots of things happening in outstate Michigan. So the Business Leaders for Michigan organization that I've been a part of since it was formed in 2009 is intently focused on making Michigan a top 10 state again.
Well, in this part of this state, southeastern Michigan, we focus a lot on the auto industry and its upswing. You're out in western Michigan, there's automotive there, but there are a lot of other things too. You're in the shoe business, and we got, of course, furniture and medicine and what have you out there. Are those industries participating equally in this comeback?
I would say so. As we all know, the automotive industry and the suppliers to the big car companies have had a very good last 3 or 4 years. But we have an aging population, so anything connected with medicine, with medical research, with disease, that has also been a keen growth area for the state. We happen to be in footwear. We market and sell 100 million pair of footwear every year in 200 countries and territories around the world. So we tend to take not just a Michigan view, not just a United States view of the global economy. We tend to view our world as being the entire world.
And looking at the success of businesses across the state of Michigan, sometimes collaboration can be a bit of a dirty word because you're competing with other companies, but you're doing actually something on the west side of the state called Grid 70, where there's a lot of creative collaboration with different companies. Explain that.
Yeah, I think it first of all starts with an understanding that collectively the business community and the community as a whole has got to focus in today's world on your urban cores. The millennial generation, certainly my kids are different than me. They have different attitudes, they have different priorities, different approaches to work, and they're interested in working in a dynamic, vibrant urban environment. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. So Grid 70 came about because of an informal organization on the west side of the state made up of CEOs and some community leaders trying to focus on, we call ourselves informally the What's Next Committee, what's next for Grand Rapids. So we've got a lot of projects, but we have tended to focus on the urban environment in Grand Rapids. And Grid 70 came about simply because we have a heritage for design, whether it's office furniture, whether it's the footwear industry, many other. We have a heritage for design in West Michigan that we've never capitalized on, never trumpeted. And so we brought together 4 very different companies, none of which are direct competitors: Amway, Meyer, Wolverine Worldwide, and Steelcase. But not direct competitors, but all companies that have future-thinking teams of people that are focused on what is the future going to hold 5 years out, 10 years out? How are people's food tasting? How are people going to want to work? So we brought teams from those different industries together at a single location in a pretty open work environment so that they could have happy accidents, intermingle with each other, learn a little bit here. Oh, what do you think? You know, how does the work environment 10 years out, how is that going to impact footwear? It's been a very interesting experiment, very useful experiment, because it's fundamentally real jobs for real people and real companies.
All right, Blake Krieger, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
And that'll do it for My Week tonight from the Business Leaders for Michigan CEO Summit at the Westin Book Cadillac Hotel in Detroit. We are at myweek.org, and there you can find any of the shows you might have missed, and make sure you join the conversation throughout the week on Facebook and on Twitter. For all of us at Detroit Public TV, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta,